We're here with yet another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we'll give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This is a massive game, man. It's off the tail of Assassin's Creed Origins, which, for context, as much as it was very different, I liked it, and I grew to enjoy it even more after I finished it. Long story short though, this is more AC Origins, but it is hugely overwhelming and feels even more like this full-bodied RPG to really sink your teeth into for hours and hours and hours. It doesn't fix many of the issues I had with the previous game, but it gives you a gorgeous new world to explore, things to grind towards, and people to kill. I'll get to that. Let's start off with the story. A very different one here. The current time period Animus stuff starts off extremely light, and it's really only there for you if you really want to pursue it more. This is the lightest it has been in an Assassin's Creed game, definitely, and I don't know, people go both ways on this. I like the current day stuff. I want more of that, and I'm getting less and less of it, but I feel like I'm a dying breed of that type of fan. This game is all about the past, deep into BC territory in ancient Greece. You choose between Cassandra and Alexios. They're mostly interchangeable characters except for a few little tweaks here and there, but honestly, I went with Cassandra because I couldn't stand Alexios' awful sounding voice acting. I heard it during a Twitch stream, and I was like, no. Her voice is a little corny too, but not as bad, just a personal preference thing, I don't know. Regardless of who you choose, you are a Spartan descendant of Leonidas who lives as an outcast mercenary just trying to make a buck, until, of course, you're thrust into a way bigger adventure in a big world. It is a pretty slow start, even once you get past the roughly 3-hour opening before the credits, and it takes a while even after that before you really get to your core mission. Partly because the game is really lengthy, but also because you're out in a big world with tons of things to do and get distracted by. Now, Origins previously tried to replicate the compelling, interesting, and unique side quests of The Witcher 3, and Odyssey goes all in on that, coming even closer to it. Your interest will be piqued for quite a long time, it seems, because there are just so many interesting diversions out there. There are still, of course, cookie cutter things, but there are a lot more interesting side stories and character quests that seem like they're worth checking out. Some even tie into the overall narrative too, which I appreciate, but even when they don't, you just get to meet interesting characters in weird scenarios, and the game seems to do a good job of thinking outside the box for some of this stuff. Now, it does feel a bit more like a traditional Western RPG at times, like Witcher or Skyrim. When you're roaming through the woods on horseback, some deers run by, a morning fog is rolling in, and you find a secret cave with treasure. Yeah, the vibe and atmosphere hits just right, and it feels like a completely different game, not an Assassin's Creed game. I like those moments a lot, just because they surprised me. I did not expect that going into this. Granted, most of the time you're still hiding in bushes and stabbing dudes and taking out outposts and climbing things, so I really hope you're not sick of that, because there is a lot of that and tons of things to grind for in this game. If you thought Origins' colored loot system was big, this is next level stuff. You are constantly bombarded with new and unique items with different looks and stats, and you can even always hang on to those older ones by upgrading them and engraving them at a blacksmith. It feels like I'm never getting used to one equipment set because I always get a new one every 20 minutes, but I still really like being able to invest money and resources into older weapons to make them better and keep them for longer. It's actually a surprisingly addictive gameplay system for me. Now, at first, hunting does feel like it's a lower priority than in previous games, but it's just integrated slightly differently. There are still plenty of animals to kill and places to raid and treasures to discover, all for your benefit, and the game does a good job of keeping you just, like I said, consistently grinding. The game does feel a little bit too grindy at times, but it's different for everyone. Some people hear that and they think that's great. Other folks, not so much. I'll leave it at that. It does get better as it goes though, overall, and you're looking at 30 plus hours easily in this world. Speaking of the world though, like I said, it's massive. Something about it this time with added verticality makes it feel absolutely insane. Another key strength, though, of these new Assassin's Creed games is the environmental variety. Here you get tropical islands, hotter climates, then grasslands and chilly fall mountains, and a few other things in between. What I also really like, though, is that you get cultural differences. Exploring is even more fun because you come across completely different types of people, buildings, and systems. It's just impressive to say the least. You see a lot because not only do you wander on horseback, but you're also sailing the open seas. The game is really that big. Naval Combat is somewhat similar to AC Rogue and Black Flag, which, as a diehard fan of those games, I really appreciated. I immediately felt like I was coming home after spending hundreds of hours in those games. It controls similarly, but it is simplified a little bit. You also don't have complete freedom to stop and jump out wherever all of the time. The whole boat thing is a good mechanic where I guess for everything else comes with some compromises that had to be made. But of course, you're really just killing dudes. And I haven't even brought that up yet. The combat is still like 60-70% the same here, and I'm still not crazy about the loose feel and further out camera angle. It's still just not quite my thing. Weapon types all feel and play differently, but I'm still not 100% on it. I appreciate when it's challenging though, because it does get there, and I do like that. What I don't like is the new emphasis on parries. This is a personal preference, of course, but I'm not a fan of the slamming of the 2 trigger buttons to do a parry move that has a surprisingly lengthy window. I say that, but on the flip side, the actual button press doesn't really feel that good. There's like a slight milliseconds delay that makes it feel a tad bit off, and you have to get used to it. That's fine, but like it didn't feel like something I needed to get good at. It just feels like something where I personally just didn't jive with the design choice. It just feels kind of lower quality, and I wasn't into it. It's not completely different than how it worked in Origins, but I just prefer the way it felt in Origins. That's the downside, really. What I do like are the added moves and abilities. There is still like a 3-style skill tree to dump skill points into, but they unlock complete mappable abilities that are kind of awesome. Some make the game feel way more arcade style and kind of unrealistic, but I don't really care. You get over it. There's a move to send like a charge arrow shot or a 3-arrow shot, an awesomely satisfying Spartan kick. There's a dash, and almost kind of like throw teleport things similar to Shadow of War, and a bunch more. As much as I'm still not 100% into the combat, these abilities really do make like a hell of a difference. It just feels like there's just more to all of it. That's really the main theme of Odyssey though, more of everything. The game feels unfocused at first, and it frustrated me, but trust me, it picks up and remains fairly consistently fun, especially once you realize the decisions you make in conversation and dialogue actually change things in the world and story. It's not always huge, but the game actually makes good on some decisions in ways I wasn't expecting. So many games throw around choice and consequences, but not all of them actually make good on it. It's not a game changer or anything, maybe my expectations were low, but I enjoyed seeing some little changes here and there. Props to them for that. And graphics-wise, it looks great. Characters are detailed, the open seas look gorgeous, and the sunsets are almost as good as The Witcher's, which are my personal favorites. I got my hands on the Xbox One X version, and considering Origins got a nice treatment with that version, I really found Odyssey to be pretty rough in the frame rate department at times. It's never really consistent, and it was sad to see. Not game-breaking, deal-breaker territory, but still, I hope it gets cleared up in like a patch or something. Basically, if you liked Origins, you'll find more to like here. If you've never played one of these games, or if you haven't played one in a very long time, this is a pretty great, fairly standalone adventure to jump into. It's just like a big old action-adventure RPG. It has its issues, but it makes up for that in its charm and its massive size. It's really just an impressive feat worth witnessing, but I'm also just fascinated by game design. That's just me. If you're not into Assassin's Creed games, I think you'll still not be into Assassin's Creed games, but I like them. I have my personal problems with them, but I play them all, and I think Odyssey is a good one. But that is, of course, a before you buy. You know how it goes down by now. I give you some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion, and now I definitely want to hear yours. Maybe you bought the special edition that gives you earlier access to the game, maybe you're waiting for Friday for the full release, or maybe you're not even playing it at all. Whoever you are, I definitely still want to hear from you down in the comments what you think about this one. Do you think the game is forgetting its roots? Do you think it's becoming too different? Do you think it's having an identity crisis? Or are you just absolutely loving it? Or are you somewhere in between? Let's talk about this. I'll be down in the comments, but you can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino, as well as the official GameRanks Discord, discord.gg/GameRanks. But as always, if you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps us out a ton, and we really appreciate it. But if you're new, you should consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell because we put out new videos every single day. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.